Here's what I'm confused about. And, the phrase that I like to say here is, because I did much better on the verbal than the math part of my SAT back in the day, David. Explain it to me like I'm 5. When you say that they have to figure out a valuation of each side before the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, the Saudis, decide to come up with a figure that they're putting on the table, are you telling me Jay Monahan made a deal without knowing what that figure might be? Because to me, that figure must be so damn astronomical, Jay Monahan could not have refused this.
There's definitely a range that has been discussed, no doubt.
Okay.
Or a number that has. And by the way, remember, part of this is not just the initial capital that will come to sort of even out in some way the ownership, but it's the capital that's going to come in years to come to help fuel these growth initiatives that he's been talking a lot about, and that he has sort of been pressing as the reason why he feels like he had to do this deal or reversed himself completely. And so it's not just the initial money, but yeah, I think your instincts are right, Rich. There's no doubt you've got some idea. They're not telling me; they're just saying billions. I would expect that they have a better idea of how many billions, but the actual valuation work has yet to really begin. So there is still some a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to the economics.
Can you give me a guess of the neighborhood? What neighborhood are we in with that number, David?
I don't know. I mean, I would actually go to you and say, what's the value of a worldwide golf entity?
Well, I mean, it depends on how important it was for these lawsuits to be dropped, David. I mean, if you really want to put a brass tack on a table.
Yeah.
So what, 10 billion, 20 billion? I mean, I don't know.
Right, it could be. I mean, what do you compare it to? Is it similar to F1? Is it, again, what's a comparable is what we would typically ask in the M&A world. What is something else out there? And what is it worth? I don't know. I'll you're the expert on this stuff.
No, I'm not an expert on putting a valuation on things at all.
No, but on the value of sports leagues and on what one thing might be worth versus another, a global sort of entity of this type. It's kind of unlike anything, but it's similar to some, I suppose.
That number I gave you is not outrageous in your estimation.
I don't think it is. I've heard, it's not outrageous. Now, again, it gets back to, all right, but what, you're contributing LIV Golf. What's that worth? And then what is the PGA's current value? Those are going to be, all of it's going to be kind of difficult. But not impossible. Bankers are very creative people.
So so what is the power structure here? There's a board now, and Jay Monahan is the CEO of it. And from what I can read and understand, the PGA Tour will have the majority of seats on this board. How many people are on it? What can you tell me about this?
You got it all right. I mean, they're going to keep stressing this, that they have what we call governance. They're in charge. They have the majority of the seats on the board.
So did Kendall Roy. So did Kendall Roy, David, right? If I'm not mistaken. Right? Until he didn't.
Yeah, but, Kendall wasn't a serious person, right?
That's what I'm saying. Good one. That's very good. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but keep going.
No,
okay.
It was a great show. I'm going to miss it.
Me too. Yeah.
They will have control of the board, they say, and they will also be the CEO, so the executive in charge, right? That said, PIF, Yasser Armani is going to be the chairman of this thing. That comes with some influence, no doubt. But, they're going to talk about the structure of it and the new company sort of sitting above everything else, and that Jay will be the CEO of that, right? So there's a new co, and then within it is PGA and LIV and everything else. And so that's where the power is going to lie, they will say, even though the economics, frankly, may be that the Saudis actually own the majority of it.
Yeah, or all of it, right? I mean, if you're you work for CNBC. You said I'm the expert on the sports, I guess, valuation part of it. You're the business expert in this conversation. Yep. David Faber of CNBC. If I told you, forget about LIV and PGA, if I told you there is an entity that says they are the exclusive investor in something and also can have full and complete authority over who else invests, would you not call that entity the owner of the entity? Correct?
I would. Yes. Now, and I tried yesterday, although not hard enough. I didn't push the point. And you're saying it here. It makes me think should have pushed this harder in the interview. But yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay,
They will only. Again, the answer is yeah, but we don't have governance. Now that does happen sometimes. But money talks, doesn't it? And so it may not be said, but it doesn't need to be.
Okay. Yeah. And then I guess last one on the power structure of this, and then we'll just talk about the future of it best you can tell. David Faber of CNBC here. Can the PIF fire Jay Monahan? I mean, can they just go in and say, you know what, you're not doing what we wanted you to do. So once the papers are signed, you're out, and Tom Wamsgans is in. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, is that possible?
Tom Wamsgans is going to take the CNN job.
Maybe so. Maybe so. I love that we're mixing headlines here. But in all seriousness, can the PIF, can even maybe His Royal Highness come in and tell Jay you're out? Doesn't matter.
No, I mean, they only have one vote. As far as I'm aware, they would only have the vote of those directors they control, and
right.
They don't control the board. So, no. The answer would be you would need a vote of the board in majority to say you're done. And right now, that board is controlled by members of the PGA.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, the answer would be, at least on paper, that's not the case.
Okay. So if I sit here and say Saudi Arabia just bought the PGA Tour, am I right? Or?
No, I mean, they'll dispute it because they'll say, oh, no, we didn't. Okay. And it's an entity, and the entity's here, and we're only a part of it. But I think you're fine to say that.
Okay. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.